everyone, Xavier here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go over more of the 4K collection. We're going from I to K this time. Not much to say in the introduction. I did just upload the a new addition to the collection, which is Face Off, the John Travolta Nicolas Cage film. So if I'm adding any 4Ks during the series, I'll be putting it as shorts if I already passed the letter. If I got something new, but it's like, say, starting with the letter S, well, it will be covered when I talk about all the S's, but for the case of Face Off, I already went over, movies starting with F, so at that point, I had to make a short of it. I'm not going to remake the entire video just for one movie. With that said, let's get started. Starting off, we have I Am Legend. I think this is a great movie. Now, the only problem with the 4K here is that it is only including the theatrical cut. The Blu-ray does have the alternate, like the actual good end, like the good alternate version of the ending, which was like the best part of, the better ending. However, for some reasons, like Warner Bros. Has that issue where, look, Doctor Sleep, for example, they will only include the theatrical cut, but not the alternate cut, which is annoying, because I prefer the director's cut of Doctor Sleep, much like I prefer the alternate ending of I Am Legend. I think everyone does. And I think this is a pretty good movie. I think the third act, like when the other survivors showed up, it's a bit like not as good because it was more effective when it's just Will Smith. But the alternate ending is very good. I prefer that over than the theatrical ending where he just explodes. When I watch this movie, I just will stop right before he blows up because that is not the true ending. In fact, they're making a sequel for this movie where, they're going to straight up say, the theatrical cut is not canon. So I think that's hilarious, but moving on. We have Inception. I do not like this cover art at all for Inception. Like, I prefer the poster, the actual poster of all the characters. This just makes it look so, like, it doesn't even look like an actual, real, Nolan movie cover. It looks so fake. But as a whole, I think Inception is a great movie. I don't think anyone has much to argue about that. Oh yeah, I forgot to do this for I Am Legend. But yeah, I think Inception is a masterpiece from Nolan. I think it's his best movie by far. It's just, the creativity, the cast, the visuals, the storytelling is great. Not much to say anymore. Up next, we got The Incredible Hulk. One of the few MCU movies I have. This movie gets a lot of, it's always polarizing. Some people either really like it, some people really don't. I think the issue at the time was that it was very tonally different from Iron Man. It's a much more serious movie. There are still humor parts in, there's still funny moments, but they're not as often. Also, Edward Norton is the Hulk, not Mark Ruffalo. I do prefer this design of the Hulk way more, though. Looks more like monstrous. And that's the thing. I think it's well directed. You got some good action. The effects are pretty solid. I like the design of Abomination, where I didn't like the new design where they make him more reptilian. I know that's from the comics, but I prefer the more really gross, monstrous version of the Abomination, because that is an abomination, not some reptilian guy. I don't know. But in general, I think The Incredible Hulk is an underrated gem of the MCU, which I'm not, I don't love all their movies, but I think this is one of their better ones, surprisingly. Maybe because it's more serious. I do wish, though, that the ending where they implied that the Avengers were going to go after the Hulk did happen. That was apparently a plan when they were making the Avengers, but that, of course, didn't happen. Up next, we got The Incredibles. I don't think there's much to say about this movie. It's one of the best Pixar films ever made. Isn't my favorite, my absolute favorite? No, Coco is. But this is fantastic. It's a shame, though, that the sequel was very disappointing. It just didn't really meet the standards of this movie. And that's the thing. On 4K, it still holds up. The animation still holds up for the most part. It's a very well-animated film. And not much to say about Incredibles. I think everyone has watched The Incredibles, and it's a fantastic Pixar movie. Up next is Independence Day. This is a classic, sci-fi classic. That is it flawed? For sure. Is it cheesy? Yes. But I think that's kind of the charm of it. But And that's the thing. You got a ensemble cast. You got the award-winning special effects. You got the action. You got that blockbuster thrill. And that was the thing. This is like the summer blockbuster. Like as much as Jaws and Star Wars really established the blockbuster. This was the surprise blockbuster. Where it just came out of nowhere and people were like, yeah, this is a must watch. And also because it was like it came out in July. And yeah, like this is, I think this is still Roland Emmerich's best film. And I still find it entertaining. Is it a bit long at times? Sure. There is both the theatrical, oh wait, yeah. But yeah, here's another good thing though. This includes both the theatrical and the extended cut on the 4K. Take notes, Warner Brothers. But yeah, Independence Day. This is also one of the earlier 4Ks, I believe, that came out for the medium. But yeah, I kind of wish Fox made more 4Ks before Disney bought them. Up next is a controversial film, the Injustice adaptation. Now, yeah, I do have a few more of these, how do you say, animated DC films on 4K. I wouldn't say they're the biggest improvement on 4K because the animation isn't like the budget isn't super high for them, and it's like 2D animation. And that's the thing when it comes to 2D animation. It's not exactly a big, whoa, this looks amazing on 4K, but you can tell there's a little bit of extra detail. Now, as for the movie itself, so a lot of people hate it because of the character decisions, and they kill off the Flash, and it isn't a proper, accurate version of the game. But I would say watch Godzilla Mendoza's video about this movie, and I think that my thoughts reflect his for the most part. I defend the Flash getting killed because they don't want, they're trying to ride out the whole Flashpoint argument. I think there's some interesting additions like Mr. Terrific and Plastic Man. Would have been cool to have a more accurate Injustice, series. That's the thing. I think the problem is that because this is a single movie, there ain't going to be any other Injustice, sequels or anything like that. I think that's sort of the problem. They should sort of done an Injustice 1 or 1 to 3 part, going over the first few years, or maybe into, Injustice 2. But I think, if you watch Godzilla Mendoza's video, he goes and defends this movie a lot, and I agree with majority of his opinions. Like, the changing of Wonder Woman's character, Superman not being as evil, and the additions, and writing out the Flash. Yeah, like, I understand why people do not like it, especially if you, prefer the games and the comics more. But I think this is a pretty solid adaptation of the comics and game. Could have better, sure, but it was actually pretty good. Up next is In the Heights. If you do not remember this movie, this came out in 2021, HBO Max and theater release. And it's based off Lin-Manuel Miranda's earlier play that was in Hamilton, which of course is called In the Heights, which is about, this poor, this, community in New York, the Heights, Puerto Rican, Latino community, and these people are trying to win a lottery that would get them out of the community or something like that. I know, I watched this movie before. I think it was pretty solid, a really good movie. There's just some issues when it comes to, some characters and some conflicts. The main romance between what's his name? Anthony Ramos's character. I'm forgetting his name. Mustabi, and the girl. I hated their chemistry. I don't think they should have got together by the end because they were so off. Like, it just kind of felt forced. And I just skipped the ending really because I don't care for those characters. The songs though are really good. Like, this is by the guy who did Crazy Rich Asians, and it's well directed. I think the musical numbers are very good. And yeah, I think this is a decent movie. Like, if you like those types of musicals, it's pretty good. Could the story and characters have been a bit better? Sure, I think so. I think the problem is that they have to juggle a lot of characters in this movie. But yeah. Next up, we got Iron Man 1. One of the best MCU films still to this date because it's standalone. It was more serious. It didn't have to worry about building a universe immediately. You got actual practical effects, and it was just a very solid movie. I think there's not much to say about the first Iron Man. People will agree. Still one of the best films from that franchise. Strangely enough, though, I think No, this is still distributed by Disney, but if you know, the earlier Phase One films were produced by Paramount, which I find is funny. All right, next up we have Inside Out, one of the better Pixar movies. Almost, I yeah, probably one of the probably top 10, top five even. There don't be much flaws with the movie, really. Like it's I understand why people would say that probably be their favorite. Very emotional, very funny. I'm curious about what they're gonna do with the sequel. Um, but yeah, I remember watching this theaters. I remember really enjoying it. Again, the problems like you have Coco, which is just really high up there, and that's the thing. Even better than some of the earlier films. I know it's a controversial opinion, but I think Coco is just a way too good of a movie. So, but I think this is also very good of a movie. Inside Out, yeah, it's not much. I mean, I'm saying a lot, but there's not much else to add. I think everyone has watched it, and everyone knows why it's good. Speaking of which, we got Joker. Um, I know a lot of people can polarize with this movie. Some people, of course, really love it. Some people do not like it. A lot of snobs are like, "Oh yeah, this is so overrated. This just shouldn't been Oscar bait, whatever." And personally, I kind of disagree with that. Yes, is a derivative of some of the Martin Scorsese films, sure, but I think it's still a fantastic film. I think Todd Phillips did a great job with this. Joaquin Phoenix as Arthur Fleck is brilliant. The score is fantastic. It's a depressing movie, but that's kind of the whole point of the film. You have a little bit of humor every now and then to not make it super depressing. The ending's fantastic. I know, like, yeah, could the I would say a few things could have been improved a bit, like the neighbor character with Zazie Beetz. I don't think she was fully necessary for the movie, but I do think this is a fantastic movie. It deserved the recognition at the time. Joaquin Phoenix, I think this is his best performance. Like, there's a reason why this, it resonated with a lot of people at the time. And I am looking forward to the sequel, with, even though it's going to be a musical. I don't mind musicals, but, like, I understand why some people don't. Up next is Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. Very fun movie. I know, like, I remember when it was coming out, people were like, this is ridiculous. Why would they make a sort of reboot of this franchise? Especially when the problem is that they announced it right around when Robert Williams died, which was a very disrespectful thing at the time. But the movie is very good. It's like, yeah, it's carrying a Jumanji name, but practically its own thing, and it's doing a fun reinventiveness of the franchise. And of course, you got a great cast. You got a lot of fun adventure. It was just a crowd pleaser. Like, it was just a very good, fun movie. I don't think there's much to say. Like, I think a lot of people watched this first Jumanji movie. It almost made $1 billion. So I hope that people did watch it. I know I'm speeding through a lot, but there's not much I will say about some of these movies. That's why. Up next is Jumanji: The Next Level. Not as good of a sequel, but still pretty solid, still fun. I would say with the case of the Jumanji films, I think the third acts are always sort of the weakest. The first film, actually, the original Robin Williams film, actually has the best third act. This, the other, Welcome to the Jungle, a little bit of a weak third act, and then this one is even like weaker. Like, there's the comedy kind of dips. The ending is not as satisfying. But I still think, though, like the first two acts of these movies are just very entertaining. You just get into it. Like, it's always a shame when I always rewatch these movies. I'm like, oh my god, I'm enjoying this, and the third act's like, whatever. Like, it lost my attention. But you know what? These are still fun movies. I like the additions of the cast. I like they had to switch up the roles of which actor is playing what actor. I'm still wondering if they're ever going to make the third film. I have heard they're trying to. It's just that The Rock and the director are always constantly busy. But I'm very much looking forward to the final movie if they ever make it sooner rather than later. But yeah, Jumanji films, you can't go wrong with them any day of the week. Up next, we got Zack Snyder's Justice League. I know you might say, well, it's Zack Snyder. Why isn't here and stuff at the end of the list? Because I'm ignoring the fact that there was an original Justice League. Like everyone else, this is the definitive Justice League film. Not much to say. There was a fun fact. This is the second copy I had to buy. The first copy, one of the 4K's discs, because this is the thing. I think I'm going to open this up. I believe there are 2 discs for the 4K, which is, yeah, you have the 2 discs for Blu-ray right here, 2 discs for 4K right here. When I got the original, my original copy, one of the 4K discs were chipped, which means I couldn't play it. And that meant, the Blu-rays were the only functional thing. So I gave it to my friend who only had a Blu-ray copy, not Blu-ray copy, Blu-ray player, which is fine. And I had to get another one. Thankfully, I think this was still during the time where the shop in Ottawa was still, open. The one that I mentioned that sold $20 movies. And that was good because it's, cheap to get and everything. Sorry about that. But in general, great movie. There's a reason why there are people that love Zack Snyder. I'm not a big Zack Snyder guy, but I really love this movie. This version of the Justice League. They really should have kept the direction of, the DCU like this, with Darkseid and everything. Is it perfect? Not really. There are a few things they could have cut out, but then again, this is the whole point. It is the 4-hour version, as if this was the only version. But, and that's the thing with Zack Snyder. He's, he has his strengths, he has his weaknesses, but in general, I think this is a fantastic superhero epic. Like, that's the thing. Like, a lot of people agree this is a great, ensemble movie. They really should, Marvel needs to take a lesson from that version of Justice League in terms of the chemistry of the characters, the stakes, and everything like that. Up next, we got Peter Jackson's King Kong, the Ultimate Edition. I heard the 4K is not the best for this, but I don't really, mind. 4K is 4K. It includes the extended and theatrical cut, which again, one of ours take notes. As for what I think about Peter Jackson's King Kong, I think it's good, but it's not great. It is a bit way too long in my opinion, which fair enough. It's Peter Jackson. His Lord of the Rings is a long movie. And the thing is, it's I'm not really a fan of the whole I love the portrayal of King Kong as a more animalistic instead of just this big, how do you say, 2 legs standing, primate. It is more of a silverback gorilla that's just giant. I do like that. I don't like some of the cast. I do I like Jack Black, but he was miscast. Adrian Brody is whatever. Naomi Watts I think is good as the lead. And I'm not a fan of the weird King Kong with what's her name? I forget her name in the movie that Naomi Watts' character plays. The whole weird it's not romanticization, but the whole ice skating scene in New York is so cheesy. I just don't like that. I think they should just kept them more a bit more serious. And that's the thing. This is I get it's a fun movie. Also has a lot of serious stuff, a lot of creepy stuff. But that's the thing. I think the tone is always a little bit inconsistent in areas where it's a bit more, lighthearted in the opening, when they are riding to Skull Island. But when they get to Skull Island, the cannibals was intense. In fact, I remember as a kid, I was not, was not allowed to watch the cannibals, or not cannibals, the tribes, the people that were there, when they arrive on the island for some reason. Even though it's not even something violent happens, it's just intense. That was the idea. Oh, I would have gotten nightmares if I saw that scene. But still, I think it's a pretty good movie. Next up is The King's Man. This is the only movie I have from this franchise. Not a lot of people saw The King's Man because guess what? Disney decides, let's put this movie out at the same time as No Way Home. Well, yeah, very good idea for this movie to do well. And as for what I think, this is probably the best of the Kingsman series. I think Matthew Vaughn did the best job for this movie with that franchise, mainly because the tone was more balanced. I wasn't a fan of the other 2 films for being way too comedic. I don't like the character of Eggsy. I just think he was not very likable in the first movie. He got a bit better in the second movie, but I don't want to get into a rant about the whole Kingsman franchise and what what worked, what didn't. Now this movie, I think it's a pretty, really good movie. I mean, I think it's mainly thanks to Ralph Fiennes as the lead, as well as some of the cast like Digimon Husman, what's his name, Ray's Effins as Rasputin. That's great. Now, with that said, this is not a perfect movie. Rasputin was very much marketed throughout the movie, like in all the trailers. And mild spoiler alert, he's not the main villain. And I think they kind of overhyped that character up. And the what's her name? This character here, her arc is a bit weird. Of like, I'm not a fan. I think her character needs a bit more improvement. I will say this: this is the one movie where Matthew Vaughn does not kill the black guy, so that there's that. And yeah, I really love the sort of the plot twist in the middle where the son dies in World War One. I love that because it's like they were making him seem to like an eggsy type of character. Oh, he's gonna survive. He's gonna, be the lead, and then he dies. And I love it. It was a shocking moment in theaters. And that made me say, yeah, this is my favorite because the other movies are just kind of predictable. They just do this, they do what you expect is going to happen. It's not wild. It's not like, whoa, they did something that I did not expect. This did something I did not expect. And the action's well choreographed. Matthew Vaughn, is a good director. I just think some of his movies aren't the best written. But yeah, this is probably one of his better movies. This is the best movie from that franchise. I will have to talk about the whole post-credit scene of the Hitler thing. I know a lot of people like to make fun of that because it's so stupid. Why would they tease Hitler as if he's a Marvel villain? It's like, I get it. I think the problem is that, like, for one, no one watched this movie. Also, the fact that I think that's sort of the thing. Like, it is like, I don't think we're ever gonna get another movie in this series. Like, they talk about they were trying to make a third movie, but I don't think that we're gonna get a follow up of like Hitler in World War II. I think that's the problem. I don't think people want to see a comedic version of Hitler because even Rasputin is kind of over the top. So if it's like, okay, if Rasputin's over the top, why would we see a over the top Hitler? That's not funny. So anyway, enough rambling about The King's Man. I'll just say check it out. It's on Disney Plus. I think it's pretty good. Disney, that's the thing. I never liked Disney's treatment of the 20th Century Fox films, that they acquired and just dumped in theaters with no marketing or no fanfare. And the last movie for today to talk about is Kong Skull Island. I think this is pretty good. I will say my only issue with the movie is really just more of the cast. Some of the cast I like. I like John Goodman. I like John C. Reilly. Samuel Jackson is a good villain, but I also think that's the problem. I don't like him as the villain. I like him as a hero. And the problem is that the main leads, which is Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson, they're just so bland. Like, Tom Hiddleston's actually the most forgettable. Like, honestly, the problem with the Godzilla, the MonsterVerse films, all the leads are bland and generic. But Tom Hiddleston's movie is so, like, generic that I forgot that's Tom Hiddleston because he's just so stone-faced. Like, he doesn't crack jokes. He's just so bland. Like, how is the guy who played Loki the most generic-looking guy in the movie? So I don't like the main leads. I'm not the fan of the idea of, like, Samuel Jackson's the clear bad guy. It's like, no, he's not. Like, it makes sense why he wants to kill Kong. His men died. He just survived Vietnam. He has PTSD. It makes sense that he would come to the conclusion, we gotta kill this thing. But then you have Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston, no, don't kill him. I don't like that. It's a stupid plot line. I also think that this is an issue of the movie where some subplot in the movie is much better than the movie that they're telling, which is, if you know what I'm talking about, John C. Reilly's character in the beginning of the movie when he is basically stranded with a Japanese soldier because it was World War II at the time. And as John C. Reilly explains, he and the Japanese soldier became friends and, survived on the island until, he was the only one left remaining. And there is a nice bookend in the credits where John C. Reilly returns to his family and everything. But that story should have been this movie. Now, granted, this movie is meant to be more on the cheesy side. It's meant to be a 70s, schlock fest. and I can understand the appeal for that and why people would say this is their favorite of these MonsterVerse movies. But I just don't like the main leads. I don't think the idea of making Samuel Jackson the bad guy and like we're gonna root against you is kind of the best idea, because Samuel Jackson's too likable of a character, and John C. Reilly's like character and story should have been the actual movie. It's a shame, and however, it's a weird thing that we got Monarch, the Monarch Apple TV Plus show, and MonsterVerse, Godzilla vs Kong, and we got the new movie coming out next year. It's a shame that we will probably not see a proper story of the American and the Japanese soldier living on Skull Island together. That would have been fantastic. But overall, it is what it is. Yeah, it's just a shame. Like, I think I'm just trying, just in case if I forgot to do this. But yeah, here's the inside, and that wraps up today's list. Thanks for watching. I think we're almost halfway through the collection. So I think we'll most likely be like, by the time I finish this, I think it'll probably be like end of January, I believe. There will probably be a few 4Ks I will add to the collection until then. But I've been enjoying this. I will, of course, make an update video about what to expect from the channel going forward. But other than that, thanks for watching. See you next time, and hope you have a nice day.